feel a little insecure about being calling myself a writer, but I'm a writer. I'm a writer. It's what I do. But I understand I have horrible dyslexia. I flunked school. I was bad in school. I have ADHD. Look, a camera. But I'm a writer. That's what I am. Writing, it seems like it's an assignment. Why is that? When we look at writing, we think of it as an assignment. Writing is like life. You can't fail at life. Life, you exist, you create, you archive your world. That's what writing is. Knowing who you are, saying, I belong, I'm here. That's what writing is. It's saving your life. Now, have you ever asked yourself, can I be a writer? The answer is yes. And most likely, the only person telling you no is actually you. Look here. This is the first beginning of writing, storytelling. Look at that. Cave paintings in France, done about 28 to 30,000 years ago. Isn't it amazing? These are cave lions. Look at it closely. You can see it. They're hunting bison. Now imagine someone going to the most sacred spots, going to a deep, dark cave to tell this story. A cave that actually has cave lions most likely in it. Who would risk their life to tell a story? Because the story is so important. That's what they have to do. They have to tell the story. And they don't care whether they can do it right or wrong or punctuation or writing and grammar. They want to tell the story. Look at that. Cave lions hunting bison. But two interesting things happen when you look at it. One, the storyteller comes alive again. That painting is telling you a story done about 30,000 years ago. That artist is alive today. Another thing happens, a creative thing happens, is your mirror neurons are going off in your head right now. You feel the story. You're looking at that story, and you are in that story itself. You're that. Now, let me explain mirror neurons. Mirror neurons they're discovered about 20 years ago, mirror neurons. They're discovered in Italy by an Italian scientist, and one day he hooked this macaque monkey up to neurons and everything else to study his brain. And in his brain, he could study when the neurons were flashing and what part of the brain they were flashing, and all these things were going on. And he would come in and feed the macaque monkey a peanut. Every day he fed the monkey a peanut until one day the scientist fed the peanut not to the monkey but to himself. He ate the peanut, and an interesting thing happened. The same mirror neurons went off in the scientist and the monkey. They mirrored each other. The monkey was feeling what the scientist was feeling. He was actually mirroring his actions, feeling pleasure sensations, all that stuff. So the monkey was the scientist. He became the scientist in his mind, and the scientist was the monkey. And the Mayans have a different term for it. It's called in Lakesh. You are my other self. People that go to theater actually are more inclined to give to charity. Why? Because people that go to theater see people playing characters that they relate to. They walk in those people's shoes. That's what mirror neurons do. Mirror neurons give us compassion. We look at that painting and we're moved by that painting. We feel it. And every time you read a story or hear a story, you're Huck Finn going down the Mississippi River. You're Anne Frank hiding away from the Nazis. You are the characters. You're the kids and soccer players up on an Andes mountain trying to survive, feeling the emotions they feel. That's what happens with mirror neurons. And that's what's amazing about writing. You're sharing your life. You're archiving your life. And when you do, you save your life. Think about it. Earlier, I learned a very important lesson. I met with Dr. Sanjeev Chopra. Sanjeev Chopra is a scientist and a doctor. He's probably the best surgeon when it comes to liver in the world. His brother is Deepak Chopra. It's a very intelligent family. He teaches at Harvard Med. How did I work with this guy? Unbelievable. Me with dyslexia and bad spelling and all that. Because he both believed one thing, purpose. He told me, he goes, Rick, I like hear you speaking, and I like your purpose. You like writing. I do too. That's my purpose, my dharma. Is that, well, there's going to be a plague coming, and it's called COVID. So we're going to have to isolate for a while. And while we're isolating, some of the best work happens during plays. Shakespeare wrote during plays. Newton discovered his theory of gravity during a play. We should do something too. And using the spirit of yes, I said, yes, let's do something together. He said, let's write a book. So we wrote a book together. It's called Ignite the Fire Within. And we started learning things about writing. And writing taught me one thing, how together that it unites us all. I wrote with Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, and we sat there over a Zoom and wrote a book, and I learned many things about writing. And some of the things I learned were this: being honest, being vulnerable, and being truthful. Now, if you're wondering how to be a writer, first of all, say yes. Do you want to be a writer? Yes. Okay, now you need to say it to someone else here. Say it to someone else. Say, hello, my name is so-and-so, and I admit I'm a writer. This is a little bit like Alcoholics Anonymous, okay? Do it to another person. Say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I admit I'm a writer. Great. That's the first part of writing. You said yes out loud, and now you told another person yes. Now you have to look for a story. But the truth is, stories will find you. You don't have to go. In fact, if you want to, you can go to any coffee shop and watch two people talking. Now go next to them and listen to every word they say and write it down, verbatim. You got a great dialogue, you got a great story, and there it is. Now don't do it creepily, okay? Don't let them know they're watching. You're just observing. You're writing something else. And if you look at the story, you start to read it back to yourself and you go, wow, there's dialogue. There's truthful dialogue. There's now a story. Now, if you put another scene together, that's another scene, add a plot, add a conflict, add an objective, all of a sudden the mirror neurons are going off in your head of your reader as well as you. You're experiencing the story. Truth is stranger than fiction. You don't have to work hard. And let me illustrate a point. Okay, this is a scene that I did years ago in a play I wrote called Latins Anonymous. And in this scene, I'm at a Latins Anonymous meeting, and we're not fighting alcohol. We're actually fighting racism and culture and things like that, and we're very misunderstood. And us Latinos stand up there and we share. So we'll try this. Hi, my name is Rick. Thank you. And I admit I'm a Latino. The first time I realized I was Latino, I was 9 years old. I told my mom I was going to play with the Mexican kids up the street, but she said, you are Mexican, so you can stay home and play with yourself. But I got bored with that, so I went up to the street, and there was a kid named Bradley, and he looked at me, and he took the soccer ball out of my hand. He goes, hey, that's my ball. And I go, no, it's my ball. He goes, no, it's my ball. And I said, no, it's my ball. And he grabbed the ball, and he threw me on the ground, and he said, well, it's my ball now, wetback. I'd never heard the term before. Wetback, dryback, quarterback, halfback, wetback. It didn't sound like a bad word. But just to play it safe, I kicked Bradley's ass. The schoolyard supervisor came up and said, why'd you hit Bradley? Why'd you hit Bradley? And Bradley, all with his pride and arrogance, was now crying hysterically. And I said, because he called me a wetback. And she looked at me and she said, are you Mexican? I said, yes. Well, then you are a wetback. Apologize to Bradley. Come on now. Sounds like an amazing story. That's when I realized I was Latino. But that's not the end of the story. Actually, there are 3 other Latino families growing up in La Mesa. One was Juan Vargas. He lived on a chicken ranch down the street from me. I thought he was really a Mexican. He ended up being a United States congressman. The other was Ellen Ochoa, who became an astronaut. And the third one is me, a writer. Not bad for Mexicans out of La Mesa. I've realized that truth is stranger than fiction. And I've realized that our stories are important to tell. And I realize when I tell my story, I archive my story, I live again. And it goes on. And these stories will continue. And we all are part of these different stories that tell our story of humanity. Look at that cave painting. Do you see it? You can hear those lions growling under their breath. You can feel the majesty of a lion. The same feelings that artist did 30,000 years ago. You're now part of the story. And that story continues, just like you do. Whatever you do, write. Just write. Write, forgetting about punctuation and grammar and words and all that. Write without caring, without anyone watching you. Just write. For God's sakes, write. We're doing this TED Talk here in Escondido. Escondido in Spanish means hidden, right? Hidden. I'm asking you, don't hide your talents. Don't be hidden. Whatever you do, write, because writing will save your life. Thank you.